Hello and welcome to my final progress demo for our project Classmate. In this demo, I'll be bringing together all of my technical achievements over the scope of the entire project. My approach was one of noticing a problem or shortcoming with the application and using a software design technique to address these problems. Throughout the course of development, I encountered four large problems. Question data needs to be represented and transmitted in a uniform way to ensure code reusability. Questions also need a way to be stored while still being able to reflect them and any changes to them in the UI dynamically. Finally, there needs to be some form of dynamic error handling to ensure that consistent user experience even when things go wrong. Let's talk about these solutions. Solution 1 was to create and implement the iQuestion interface. The iQuestion interface sets out to define behaviors that a question object in our system is expected to have. This allows the application code to adhere to the dependency inversion principle by only depending on abstractions instead of on concrete implementations. This allows us to vary and add concrete implementations as we wish without worrying about compromising the code base or having to rewrite any of the code. Solution 2 is to use the template method pattern to create the socket action class. The socket action class addresses the need to send multiple types of information through sockets without having to be concerned about the underlying socket API. Using the template method pattern, we are able to simply lay out and set the setup, transmission, and teardown procedures for our actions, and the socket action class takes care of the remaining lower level details. Solution 3 was to implement the service to fragment binding. Service to fragment binding allows the background service responsible for receiving questions from the teacher to interact directly with the UI and dynamically load questions when they come into it. This adds a level of robustness to the application in that the question data is always viewable if it exists, because it is stored in the service directly and is simply forwarded to the UI when requested instead of being stored in the UI and being lost when the application is closed. Solution 4 was to implement a dynamic error message pipeline. By taking advantage of the service to fragment binding I spoke about earlier, it is possible to allow errors happening at the low-level socket action class when the questions are sent to be bubbled up all the way to the UI where they can be displayed to the user and the user can respond accordingly. Let's have a look at how these technical achievements come together. First, we're going to send in a question from the teacher side, and we see that it loads dynamically, which is exactly what we were looking for with one of our solutions. We'll go ahead and we'll select an answer and we'll send it back. And it also exits dynamically. Now, in order to show the error handling that I talked about as well, I'm going to send another question in. And I'm going to simulate a problem with our connection by turning off our Wi-Fi, for example. And we'll see the propagation of that dynamic error handling pipeline here. And that is all.